I have never seen anything like this. What we are witnessing flies in the face of the methodology of what almost every NBA team has aspired to accomplish in order to win an NBA championship. Yet somehow, this is the key strategy for the Golden State Warriors to win their 5th in the last 10 years. Hey, what's happening, everyone? This is Swish Culture. Coming into the NBA, Zion Williamson was an unstoppable force. The undisputed top talent in basketball circles in 2019, even with a potential superstar like Ja Morant available, there was no question whose name Adam Silver would be calling first that night. Not even a pair of Nikes could escape the wrath of Zion during his lone freshman year at Duke, as the sheer force of his athleticism literally exploded his sneaker. Now, how many of you would be able to stand in front of this human being and be able to stop him from simply imposing his will on you? Well, the last time he faced the Warriors, there was one human being that did. And not only did he stop Zion in his tracks, the results were pretty embarrassing. Zion's partner, on the other hand, faced just about the same level of embarrassment. After individually putting up 30 and 31 points the night before, a total of 61 combined points, the duo couldn't even manage to hit 30 together. The matchup with Brandon Ingram and Jonathan Kuminga was especially brutal. Ingram suffered on both ends as he was hounded by Kuminga and swarmed by double teams when he wasn't getting faked into oblivion. JK pulled out the filthiest move this side of a West Bank settlement, hitting BI with a Euro step that originated in Poland and ended somewhere in the Middle East. When the smoke cleared, the Pelicans' 2 All-Stars were non-factors as the Warriors' defense kept them prisoners to their role players' abilities. Let's have a look at just what the Warriors did to this Pelicans team that allowed them to casually dispose of 2 of the league's best players. But not just that. How did they run the Rockets out of the gym before letting them back in the 4th quarter? Lots to talk about here. But before we get into the key element to the Warriors playing winning basketball, be sure to like the video and subscribe to Swish Culture for the most analytical and entertaining NBA content on the planet. Now get ready. You're about to get Every NBA circle that knows anything about winning basketball will tell you unequivocally that defense wins championships. While it's important to be able to score the ball, offenses usually get quite a bit more credit than they deserve when you consider how much defense impacts winning. Most viewers watching the game see only the offensive side of things, as they find that to be most exciting, so it's understandable that most of the attention and highlights skew towards how well a team scores instead of how well they get stops. This season's Warriors is one of the rare teams doing both at a high level, with some of the best in the game driving this team towards some of their best basketball in recent years. There's a lot to cover in this video, so I won't go into too much depth, but I'll highlight some of the really good things happening on both ends of the floor for the team's biggest contributors. First of all, this starts at the top. Draymond Green commented on the huge changes brought about by the team's defensive coordinator, Jerry Stackhouse. Jerry Stackhouse not only changed the Warriors' defense, he changed their approach to the concept of defending and brought back a ranking system, something similar to what the team had with Mike Brown. He challenged guys to be the best defensive versions of themselves, and you see it play out in real time in all the wins they've culminated so far this season. While I don't have the exact details on the ranking system, know that it results in a bit of a friendly competition among the players. No one wants to be that guy that Stackhouse has to call out for not putting out the effort to cover their defensive assignment. At this stage of the game, with the tools these players have, they're all able to have an impact defensively, so I use the term effort to highlight that defending properly isn't a skill issue when you have the right personnel in place to give these guys proper direction. With a defensive coordinator like Jay Stack and a defensive floor general like Draymond Green, you have the perfect motivation for players such as Kuminga, Moody, and even Pods, who compares himself to Draymond Green, to be able to give their best effort on a nightly basis. Once these players see how good they are as a team, how do you not continue to do exactly what you know leads to winning when all of your teammates have bought in? This type of winning and team mentality and accountability is what has been keeping the Warriors in the win column. Next is Draymond. Dre gave Zion Williamson the business in their second matchup. After Big Z dropped 30 points the night before, Draymond, the prideful defender that he is, decided he was going to take on the challenge of making Zion a non-factor. The rest of the league is lucky Draymond is only 6'7" because while he has some size, this isn't exactly his best defensive trait. He's got really good defensive acumen. His quick thinking, adjusting on the fly to the point of predicting his opponent's moves has made him one of the best defenders in the league in guarding 1 through 5. If he'd grown 3 to 4 more inches, we're talking about not just an all-time great defender, but possibly, very possibly, the best to ever do it. To be 34 years old and shutting down a 24-year-old Zion Williamson is really as good as it gets. To do it while providing help side defense on his co-star Brandon Ingram, however, and we're talking about levels. Did you realize that Draymond is at times guarding 3 people in the paint? He's watching ball and watching man while watching the cutter down the lane. Seeing these clips will have you mesmerized by what he's doing as an off-ball defender. He's very precise on his help, knows exactly when to do it and how to distance himself to avoid getting blown by. While that still happens every so often, it isn't quite often, and when it does, it's usually when he knows he has Tracer Loon rotating over to help. Speaking of guarding Ingram, B.I. was in lockdown after Jonathan Kuminga displayed some of the best defense we've seen from him since those videos of him working out this summer. Now that he's had a chance to get his feet wet this season, we saw him commit to playing both sides off the floor, keeping Brandon Ingram in a facilitator role and forcing the Pelicans to rely on players not named Ingram or Zion to win them the game. If you watched the last video I did, you know exactly how this went. For good measure, JK also dominated B.I. on the other end of the floor. If you can't see the superstar potential in Kuminga and what he could give you if you get him to buy into what the team is doing, there are plenty of other hobbies besides basketball that you could probably be better suited for. While I have no proof, I think JK still suffers from a lack of confidence with Steve Kerr because what JK is doing off the bench could be out of sheer frustration. He's just playing his own way. When he plays like this, he's usually the hardest player on the floor to guard. Off the bench, he gets the green light to attack and do what he feels, and this was actually communicated in his mid-game interview versus the Rockets. But when he's playing with Stephen Curry, he seems to be a bit more nervous. Are the guys encouraging him to play like he did against the Rockets when he's on the floor with Steph, or are we putting him in a corner waiting to shoot the ball? At the earliest onset, it seemed JK wanted a max deal from Golden State. I was one of, if not the first channel to share the amount that the Warriors were trying to give JK, which was $30 million a year. As it turns out, his agent tried to negotiate for $35 million, and the Warriors just weren't willing to give him that. I'll tell you this right now. If JK continues playing this way, he's going to get a heck of a lot more than $35 million come next season. Big-time buckets in the clutch, big-time free throws leading the Warriors in overtime, scoring 6 of the Warriors' 8 points to lead the team to a victory over 2 of his rookie classmates, one of whom signed a bigger contract than what Kuminga was asking. But it doesn't end there. He put up 23 points and 6 rebounds, hitting a couple of threes on the way in only 26 minutes. 26 minutes. Arguably your best player on the floor who came in off the bench and cooked the Rockets, but you sit him for almost the entire third and again for a huge portion of the fourth quarter. This very scenario played out last season against the Denver Nuggets, except things ended a little differently. He didn't get back in the game and the Warriors ended up losing. Despite these so-called problems with spacing while playing next to Wiggins, Kuminga did as well as you could have hoped with the minutes he was given, and he did exactly what we all thought he would do given the opportunity. I say we all, but we know some of you wanted him traded 3 games ago. I haven't even mentioned the fact that the Warriors haven't even been playing with a point guard off the bench. 1 point guard for 38 minutes of the game and an entire 10 minutes without one. Guys like JK and Wiggins and even Hield having to create their own shots. Speaking of Hield, I am so impressed with what he's been able to do on this team. He's hit 27 points 3 times already this season in just 6 games. I don't know about you, but I like those odds for my shooter. Steph Curry has not had this much help since KD bounced in 2019. And that being said, it was a bit rough watching the Warriors blow a 30-point lead. While I didn't expect a blowout when the game started, I didn't expect this Warriors team to give it back. This was without a doubt the best start to the season despite not having Steph Curry or DeAnthony Melton. Obviously, no one wants these guys to be injured, but Kuminga, Moody, Wiggins, and even Pod stepping up to fill the gap had me confident that this team would be fine no matter what happens. Every game the Warriors have won so far, though, we hear that it was a bad team or that the Warriors were supposed to win. Then you have the talks about how the Warriors should trade players, yet here they are, continuing to beat teams regardless of who they are. The Rockets are the 9th-ranked defensive team in the league this season, not just the Western Conference, and are definitely heading to the playoffs. The Pelicans are 7th in the league. Both these teams faced the Warriors without Steph Curry, and except for a few minutes near the end of the fourth quarter in the Rockets game, neither team looked like they could keep up with Golden State. Somehow, the Warriors have been able to successfully fuse their young players with their vets, and all it took was to remove ego from the locker room and have guys play to win. This is a different culture being built in Golden State. Imagine how this team looks when Stephen Curry returns. We get this version of Jonathan Kuminga in the starting lineup next to him, Wiggins, Draymond, and a well-seasoned Trayce Jackson-Davis. I'm not saying the Warriors are going to win the championship this year, but I am saying don't bet against Golden State. Let me know how you feel about the Warriors going 5-1 after 6 games and Jonathan Kuminga looking like the player he's been telling us he is. Post your thoughts in the comments below. Before that, however, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on all your notifications so you don't miss any of my latest uploads. Thanks for watching. Till next time, swish!